Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrican, coming to you with another special edition of the podcast. I'm joined here today with Rhode Island FC midfielder Marc Ybarra. Marc, how is it going?
It's going well. Friday, match day -1, so it's a good day.
It's been a big day for the squad as well with the recent announcement of Jack Panayiotou returning to the team. So you guys must be really excited to get those reinforcements coming down the final stretch of games here.
Yeah, no, it's fun to have him back. It's been a little bit funny having him come in, leave, come in, leave. But yeah, it's exciting to have him back. It's fun to have him in training, and hopefully he can help us, create some chances and goals coming down the stretch here.
Definitely. But this is about you today. So I want to start things off with the same question I ask every player, and that is, how did you fall in love with the beautiful game?
So I have older siblings. I'd say I'm the youngest of four, so I have an older brother and two older sisters. And so growing up, they all played, and so just always going to their games, carpooling, and watching them play. I remember just being 3 or 4 years old, wanting to play with them. So I think I just always wanted to beat my brother. Honestly, he was 6 years older than me, so that was tough growing up. But I think just always wanting to beat him in soccer and basketball and everything we played. That just led to a lot of competitiveness, but really fell in love with soccer.
Did he end up going and pursuing anything at the collegiate or professional level in any sport himself?
Yeah, he played soccer at Detroit Mercy, Division I school in Michigan, and yeah, both my sisters were pretty big soccer players when they were younger too. Neither played in college, but yeah, I was always trying to chase all of them.
So it's really interesting that you talk about the Michigan impact, where despite not being able to play for your high school team, instead you were with the CSA Wolves, a academy spinoff or partnership with the Columbus Crew. I noticed that you spent an incredible amount of time locally around the Ann Arbor and Michigan soccer scene. That's something that we don't often hear about. I think only Steven Turnbull's the only other player that I've heard of where they didn't have to go out and play their trade in other places. What was the strategy behind that? Was that luck just kind of falling your way, or did you know that Michigan was going to provide everything that you needed when it came to your soccer development?
Yeah, I think, yeah, growing up playing club, I knew it was important to try to play for one of the two academies in Michigan. That goes a long way for recruitment, but yeah, you never know where you'll end up. I remember kind of going through it, and when colleges started reaching out, just kind of hearing from a few different ones around, but definitely wasn't hearing from everyone, so was trying to keep my options open. And then when Michigan came in, it was exciting for sure. Growing up in Ann Arbor and kind of knowing a bit about the campus and knowing a few of the guys on the team. So I felt like when I visited there and they could kind of take me around the campus, and a couple of guys I knew from soccer or just from locally were able to show me around, I just felt really comfortable there, and it seemed like an exciting opportunity. They were in a bit of a place where the year before I went to Michigan, I think they had won something like 4 games. So they had a rough season, which, you don't like to see, but it also means good opportunity coming in as a freshman to play. So, yeah, a lot of things just fell into place, and I was excited about being there, and luckily it all worked out.
Is there an advantage when you are in a situation like a Big Ten Division One team and you have like this home field advantage of being from the area, having your family and your support? Is there something that speaks to that, or is it just that you like Michigan was always your destination and the rest of it kind of laid itself out on the pitch?
Yeah, I would say I definitely was considering other options, but once I chose Michigan, it was a great experience. And yeah, the campus is amazing. The field's a mile away from Central Campus, so kids would sometimes be shuttling in. But for the big games, it was always so exciting playing Michigan State or Ohio State or Indiana, some of those big Big Ten games. You'd get all the students on their side, and it was always exciting. And for me personally, yeah, having my family and friends around. My parents went to just about every game I played there, so that was really great to always have that support system.
Did you notice an incredible jump when it comes from your academy playing days to the Division One collegiate level?
Um, in terms of you're just playing against more physically developed guys. In terms of like the quality, um, I wouldn't say there was a big jump, but I would say just in terms of the specimens you're playing against, you're 18 years old and you're playing a guy who's 23. It's a pretty big task. But in terms of the quality, I think I was prepared well from kind of the academy years and ready to make that jump.
Prepared you were, because I looked over your accolades from your time in Michigan, and you have to be one of the top players to ever have been produced from that soccer program. You hold the Michigan record for games played at 91, with total starts at 90. You hold the record for total playing minutes at 7,665. You're second in all time with assists at 24. You were Big Ten midfielder of the year in 2021, as well as just being on the Big Ten team of the year. That is a noticeable accomplishment. Do you feel that you gained everything that you were looking to accomplish with your time in Michigan, or did you leave something behind that you wish you had maybe spent more time developing or building into your game?
Yeah, I think, yeah, personally, I don't have regrets. I mean, obviously, we would have wished to. There were a couple years where we had really good teams there, and um, you know, obviously, us guys who were in that moment, maybe my sophomore and junior year especially, we had good teams and we got to the Sweet 16, and you always wish you would have pushed a little further in the tournaments. But yeah, on a personal level, it was obviously timing was fortunate and the trust from the staff there was fortunate, but to be able to accomplish, those the game time I got and the assists I got and everything like that on a personal level, I'm really proud of, and yeah, I feel fortunate, but proud of the time there for sure.
In between the seasons where you were playing with Michigan, you also dabbled in some of the USL2 teams in the area with the likes of Ann Arbor FC, where Stephen Turnbull also
Yeah.
spent some time, and then the Flint City Bucks, where Grant Stoneman also put in some minutes. I have to ask, as you look back at either of those squads and those clubs, who do you think left a longer lasting impression between the likes of you, Grant, or Stephen? And in this, and in the Flint City Bucks perspective, why is the answer already Pat Noonan?
Yeah. As far as Ann Arbor goes, for sure, Steven. I know they still love him there. I played one season with them, and it was a lot of fun. I was playing on. It was actually my high school's home field that we played on with AFC Ann Arbor, so that was a lot of fun. Having never played there before, um, but yeah, it was exciting. It was a good time, and yeah, I mean, those summers were always fun with Flint City Bucks. It was fun. They would have a crazy squad. They'd be rotating in everyone and trying to win national titles, and they did. I remember the summer I was there, we I guess I technically won a national championship, but I left before playoffs, so I don't really take credit for that. But they sent me a ring, so that's nice of them. And yeah, it was great, good quality players to play with in the summers, so it was a fun time.
So what I'm hearing is Grant Stoneman's never going to be able to say he has a ring from the Flint City Bucks.
Yeah, I'm not certain exactly what year he was there, but I know I got one. So there we go.
Moving in, so from Michigan, you signed with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in 2022. It's your first professional contract. What was it like knowing that you got to fulfill the dream of becoming a professional player in North America?
It was exciting. Yeah, it was a bit stressful leaving school and trying to get set up on your first contract. And I'm sure a ton of USL guys would have this similar experience, but pretty much you go into a preseason on trial, and it's very stressful. The first couple weeks you're there, you have no idea if you're going to make the squad, and then as you're thinking about making the squad, you're like, all right, my other options are slowly fading away because these weeks are passing and their preseasons are going along. So all that can get pretty crazy, but again, was fortunate and was lucky to land there and spend a good 2 years in Pittsburgh.
Would you say that it was like every day you were counting the minutes? Was it uncertain, or did you kind of have a bearing that Pittsburgh was going to be the landing destination for you as you were going through those trials?
Yeah, well, that was the only trial I went on, and I felt I was doing really well. Especially the first week, I was like, "All right, great, these guys are going to sign me now." And then the week passes and they don't sign you, and you're like, "Oh boy." But yeah, so luckily, I had a good sense that I was playing well in the trial phase, and I was like, if they don't sign me, I'd be surprised, but you never know. And yeah, luckily it worked out. So.
How would you describe Coach Lilly? He's one of the most winningest coaches in North America. He's both a teacher and a student of the game. What was it like getting to play under him?
Yeah, it was. You learn a lot. You learn a lot, and that's what I would say to young guys who are going in there. It's a really demanding environment for sure. It was different than anything I'd experienced, but those demands are put on you. He'll be super clear with his high standards. And yeah, in terms of the growth from coming into the league to leaving after 2 years, you got to be thankful for how much you learn in that environment under him. So yeah, he's done a lot to win all those games, and he's still definitely got the fire to keep going.
Your own personal growth notwithstanding, would you say that Lily Ball suits your play style, or was that something that you had to learn?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like his system, he's very specific with, which can be really good. But yeah, at times it's difficult. A lot of times, even when we won the league last year, it's a lot of time playing without the ball. So being able to dominate matches without the ball it requires a lot of hard work. And I feel like everyone who was in that squad last year put in that work, and um, everyone did really well in that system to make it happen. So yeah, I feel like there's pieces of it that I admire and felt like fit my game well, but I've enjoyed this year being able to be in a team that has a bit more of the ball, and yeah, be in a team that tries to dominate with the ball.
Speaking to that, on contrast, you go from one of the most veteran managers, not just in the championship, but in North America, to a first-year coach in the likes of Cano Smith. Do you see any similarities or differences between their coaching styles, as one is, at the peak of their accolades, and one's just kind of launching their career?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say there's definitely key similarities and differences. From the moment we got in the door, we had an early preseason. Coach Kano has been, yeah, really, really good about trying to create an environment that's competitive. I remember early, especially in preseason, him bringing in a few of us who had a couple years or more experience in the league, and trying to make sure that we were pushing guys and making that preseason environment as competitive as we could. Um, and yeah, I think just this year it's a different experience. It's a bit more of a um, holistic group of staff members. So it's nice to have kind of Coach Kano giving us direction and instruction, and also getting a lot of instruction and direction from Dave or Marcos or Chamo or all these guys who are there to help us. Having that kind of community of staff has been great, and it's something new for me. And yeah, I've really appreciated learning from 4 or 5 different guys in this environment for sure.
Back to the Riverhounds for a second. You were a Supporter Shield winner alongside teammate Albert Dequa in last season's Supporter Shield race, earning the best record on the season. I got to ask, what's it like knowing that you're the best regular season team in a professional league, but then also knowing, do you get to actually enjoy that award, knowing that playoffs are looming ahead?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't do the best with it. We were able to claim that shield. We played away in Tampa Bay and won 2-0, and that was a huge day for us, a huge day for the club. And yeah, honestly, it was a great accomplishment. And I'm skipping ahead, but yeah, we dipped out of playoffs too quickly. Just a poor performance, but in terms of the overall year, yeah, it was a great accomplishment, and just feeling to be part of a group that wins that many games is an amazing feeling, and trying to carry that winning feeling and group into every new group that you go into. I feel like that's the mission, trying to get that feeling back of going into every week knowing that you're going to win the game.
Obviously, like you said, it didn't work out for Pittsburgh, but I have to ask, in American playoff structure, the cup or the final trophy is the ultimate most coveted award, but both as an American playing in a sport that gets its roots and is established other places as the Supporter Shield being the definitive trophy, it is your DNA, is it just like, man, like it's a little difficult to come to terms with the fact that there's two different variations on measuring success in a league that has to do both?
Yeah, maybe a little. Yeah, obviously we were really happy to win that shield and pretty devastated to dip out as early in playoffs as we did. I mean, I think it's just one of those things, that fans really want that playoffs trophy, and you want to be able to go get that for them and for yourself, but kind of have that excitement of getting through to the final and winning a final. I think there's just so much excitement with that, and I know that's ingrained into a lot of American sports. So yeah, to get that feeling would be amazing.
If you were the USL Championship commissioner today, would you adopt a pro rel and keep it to a more traditional format of best results at the end of the season, or would you still continue with a elimination playoff system?
Yeah, maybe a mix of both. I know that there's a lot of reasons why pro rel is difficult, but I know there's different countries that do something where, if you're in the bottom two or something, you have to have a playoff for who gets relegated, something like that, to have the excitement of playoff formats, but still have that kind of feature of pro rel. That would be pretty exciting, but that's just a very basic view. I know there's limitations for sure.
So then, final question about the Riverhounds. Like you said, it didn't work out, but you've seen now what a playoff run looks like. You've seen the mental preparation that's prepared for that kind of instance. How important are these next 8, 9 games as you get into the home stretch? And what does the team, from your perspective, need to start kind of doing to create that playoff knockout mentality?
Yeah. I mean, they're very important. It's definitely the business end of the season, and putting ourselves in a position where we have momentum going into playoffs is huge. And there's still so much to play for. The table's so tight, and I know all of us in our locker room are looking at that fourth spot. So to go on a run to pick up a lot of points in these last few games and give ourselves a chance at that home game in playoffs would be a huge accomplishment and would put us in a really good position to hopefully make a run in the playoffs.
So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but I want to start with just getting us back on track here with the Rhode Island side of things. First question to ask Rhode Island centric is how have you been enjoying your time so far in the Ocean State?
Yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed Providence a lot. It's a great little city, and living, you know, I'm not in the team housing, but living here has been just really exciting. Great food, great people. The weather's turning, and so I'm really looking forward to spending more time outside when it's not 90 degrees. So yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot.
Any significant sights or bites or memories that you've made so far that you would want to share?
For sure, yeah. I've had my first couple lobster rolls since I've got here. Got down to Newport Lobster Shack, enjoyed that. That one I had cold, and then I tried one of the warm ones too.
Oh, be careful here. I have to ask because you
Yeah.
said it. Which one do you prefer? And
What's the right
you will be
answer?
no, you'll be judged. I can't help you here.
All right. Well, I mean, if I'm completely honest, the warm buttery lobster roll I enjoyed the most. So that one, that one was my favorite. So.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's get into the club side of things. My favorite question to ask players is always, why sign with an expansion team? But in your case, you're coming off of a professional setting with a fantastic and very accomplished winning Riverhounds side. Technically, when you made this decision, the Riverhounds were the better team on paper from a project perspective. So I have to ask, what in the world was the allure to come and join Rhode Island FC?
Yeah, I think it was just I was in free agency and had the opportunity to talk to a few teams, and um, yeah, it was as simple as myself and my agent. We were listening to a couple different situations, and I was able to be on phone calls with Coach Kano, Coach Dave, and I knew Coach Marcos coming in. He was assistant coach at the University of Michigan, and he was the grad assistant during my time there. So being able to have those phone calls and hear them out and hear about the details of what they were trying to set up here and what they were trying to accomplish, really made me confident in their setup here and in their vision. And so yeah, I was definitely excited to try it out. I could tell they were really, they weren't just kind of dipping a finger in and seeing what the league was about. They were all in, and they had done their homework. And so yeah, just being able to talk with all the coaches assured me that this was a good project.
It seems like coach has had this knack this year of doing a really good job of finding pairings in players. First and foremost, yourself, and then Chico when he was later announced. You've got Zach and JJ, now Gabby and Morris, and then of course you've got the wellspring of all the different Revs Academy products. Is that something you've seen in a lot of your pro time, or just in playing this game, or is that something that makes this team more unique and more special than others?
Yeah, I'd say the way that's worked out has been unique for sure. Yeah, having some of those pre-existing relationships, you can tell like around the locker room that you know we all get along. We all obviously spend so much time together during training, during meals. But yeah, it's nice to have maybe one or two of those guys that you knew well coming in, particularly because as a new team, none of us had those sort of bonds in this team yet. So being able to bring them in from former environments went a long way. You have someone that you know for sure you trust, and you could get a ride from any day. So stuff like that goes a long way.
Was there any additional excitement besides the obvious in finding out that former teammate Albert Dequel was also going to join the team? It was a later announcement from when you were already putting in the time during preseason. How did that feel knowing that a former teammate was joining the squad?
Yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting knowing that it's a guy who can get you a ton of goals and uh, a guy that's a lot of fun to have around the locker room, and especially with him, it's just a guy who's going to work super hard in training, be super competitive. We had our fair share at Pittsburgh, trainings where we're going at it, being pretty competitive with one another, and um, just knowing a guy like that is coming in and going to raise that competitiveness level, especially during our preseason, went a long way. And yeah, it was exciting to have him in.
So I have to ask, for the type of midfielder that you are, it's not always the most glamorous work or performance that someone of your caliber gets to put in. Often you're showcased not doing the flashy things like scoring goals and getting assists, but more often you're doing the unsung hero work, the dirty work, if you will, of keeping the shape, making sure that the ball, in terms of transactions, stops at the midfield line. I got to ask, when you're a player of that type, whether it's a traditional CM, a holding midfielder, a defensive midfielder, whatever you want to call yourself,
Sure.
what do you do to focus on improving your game, not just for your own personal development, but also to make sure that you're highlighting the qualities that you need to showcase to get starting minutes and to secure that next big contract? What do you, you can't just say, oh, I got 10 goals on the season, so I'm incredibly valuable. How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, something I've done, I've played this role since I was probably like 14. And so for me, something day in and day out, I try to pride myself on is just winning day in, day out in training. I think that's the biggest way that I can try to prove and show impact. And obviously, there's a lot of other things, but that's been something I've always tried to do is just say, if I can win as many training games as I can, as many, little possession games, whatever it is, from the smallest thing to the biggest thing, being really competitive and trying to win and prove a point. I think that goes a long way. And then I would also just say, since I've been here, the demands here are different than they were in Pittsburgh, are different than they were in Michigan. So there's just always new things to learn about the position you play. So it's fun. I think that's a fun part about moving between teams, between levels, is just learning the new things. Each coach wants something a little bit different, and just trying to soak in what they're telling you and trying to apply that. It's fun trying to learn those new things and show that, hey, I actually am soaking that up, and I'm able to do it.
One of my favorite things I've heard you say in other interviews is you've often said that you try to always make sure that you practice with purpose. I don't know if you remember saying that, but if you do, could you expand on that and kind of define what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, what that would mean to me is just, uh, every drill that you're doing in training, if you're doing a passing drill, well, instead of just standing on the cone, you're checking away from the cone, you're checking back, you're scanning your shoulder, and you're just trying to get comfortable in game situations. So in every drill you're doing and every game you're doing, trying to, yeah, make it meaningful and, make it something that you can apply in games.
So, speaking to that aptitude, one of our listeners asked a really good question, and you've been one of the mainstays this year on our corner kick taking, and have seen some incredible success linking up with the likes of Frank Nodarse and others. I got to ask, can you break down what it takes to properly execute a corner kick?
I can't. I think I've reps, trying to take a lot of reps. And it's funny, there's 4 out of 5 days you're hitting them great, and then one day you show up and they're just they're just not going the way you want. But no, I think in general, my philosophy on corner kicks is don't try to do too much. Just try to give your guys a chance. Don't let the keeper catch it. Don't hit the first man. And yeah, just trying to give your guys a chance so that guys like Frank or whoever can rise up and, can go ahead and get that goal. But yeah, just giving those guys a chance in there.
I recently was listening to David Beckham answer a question about how he would know when he would score a goal as soon as he had kicked it. Do you feel the same kind of result when you've kicked a ball and you know that it's exactly where you wanted it to go? Or is it something where it's a wait and see moment as everyone's crowding the box to try to position in for a goal?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. You don't know if they're going to score it, but when it comes off your foot, if it's in a good area, for sure. There's, some of those corners or some of those longer free kicks. It's like, if it comes off your foot perfect, then you're looking up excited. You're like, all right, I hope someone puts this in.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you, this is one of my favorite moments of the year. And, it was a case where you were selected early on as one of the captains in kind of like the group or core of captaincy for the team. You got your first chance to wear the armband on our first home victory against El Paso. I just want to ask, can you describe what that meant to you? What was the feeling that kind of went through you for the game? And did it make a difference that you wore the armband? Was that extra special, or was that just kind of the responsibility of the day?
Yeah, I think it meant a lot in preseason when the guys voted and we selected that leadership group, and it meant a lot that the work that we were putting in and the leadership that we were trying to show was seen, and guys appreciated that, and kind of selected that group of I think 5 guys to be a leadership council sort of thing, and yeah, having the opportunity to captain the team, I think in Louisville and then El Paso, it it was exciting for me personally, for sure. It's something that I always appreciate being able to do, and yeah, to have that success on that home game and to feel a big part of it and to try to lead the guys through that game. Obviously I remember that game, like Georgia had a crazy goal and this and that. So guys just played super well, but it was an exciting day for sure.
What do you say to especially fans who say the armband is just a permission to go and talk to the ref and that it's not an actual leadership role? What do you say? Like, how do you define the responsibilities of a captain, and what does it really mean to a player that's out there on the pitch?
Yeah, that's one of them for sure. You have a little more freedom to speak to the ref when you have it. But I'd say that when you're out there and you're seen as the captain, it's definitely a responsibility to lift up the group in tough moments. When you're under the pressure a little bit, to be the one who's having that level head or getting guys going again. It's a responsibility. Guys will naturally look towards you, and to show that positive body language and to show that, hey, if things aren't going our way, we're going to lift it. If things are going our way, we need to keep our heads and stay focused. Just trying to always have that level headedness and focus, I think, goes a long way for the team in my experience. So, yeah, just trying to keep that.
And captain responsibilities aside, you're one of the top players this season with total minutes played, which is no surprise considering what you've done at Pittsburgh and Michigan, respectively. I got to ask, what have been some of your season highs and maybe also what have been some of your season lows on the year so far?
Ooh, yeah, it's interesting. I'd say like highs recently, we've been on this really good streak. When we were stringing a few wins together, and we had that away win in Louisville to kick it all off. Obviously, that was a really great moment for the team, and yeah, just personally, a couple highs. I know a couple of our recent home wins have been fantastic, and being able to celebrate with the crowd afterward is what we've been waiting for. It had that long build up because we had so many of those draws and even a couple losses at home that we were disappointed in. So I think every time we can win at home now, it's we do not take that for granted, and we're pushing for that. So I think any of those home wins where we can go over to the crowd after and celebrate with them is a big high, particularly because of how long it took to get those moments.
So, as of this recording, there are 9 games left. The club is in 7th place, but the point gap between where you are now and that 4th place that the club is targeting is only 3 points. There are 2 teams fighting below the playoff line that are also only a couple points away. What's your personal focus, and maybe what are kind of some of the team's objectives to make sure that you secure that playoff berth into the final stretch of the year?
Yeah, I think it's the business end of the year. We're looking ahead of us. We're not looking at the clubs behind us. I think there's no reason that we shouldn't be shooting for that fourth position. And I think the biggest thing for us going into these last few matches is really taking hold of our home matches. And if we can, instead of drawing, take 3 points from our home matches, I think that sets us up in a really great position to chase down that hopefully home playoff position. I know that's a big objective of the staff. It's a big objective of ours, but I think first things first, we have this game Saturday and it's a home game, and we know that we can't settle for 1 point at home. It has to be three. So I think that's a big emphasis for us.
Does it add any extra edge to the fact of most of the teams that you're competing through in the next 9 games are also teams that are fighting for their positioning, especially with the likes of Birmingham this weekend, Pittsburgh, you have to go through them, your former team. There's the second leg of Loudoun that are all trying to gun for one of these spots. Does it add more weight, more stakes to it, knowing that this is what's going to happen? And is it better to be doing this now so that you can go into the playoffs hotter, or would this been something that you'd rather have seen maybe mid-season or earlier on?
Yeah, for sure. The stakes are high. They're high for us. They're high for those teams, and you can feel it. I mean, our away game in Loudoun, we had a couple of big chances in the first half, but they were really competitive too. And yeah, you definitely feel it in these last few games that we're playing these teams: Birmingham, Loudoun, yeah, Pittsburgh, all these teams that are right around us, and they need 3 points. We need 3 points, and it's great. It's great. All you can ask for coming down to the end of the year is that you're playing in meaningful games. You don't want to be coasting into an eighth place finish. You don't want to be missing playoffs. So to not be coasting at this point of the year, I think is huge. And yeah, there's everything to play for. So taking some of these points off these teams with the stakes so high could really have us riding high into playoffs.
This is kind of a softball question, but I find it really fascinating. Right now, there are only 3 other teams in the championship era of USL that have made it into the playoffs in their inaugural season. And like you just said, there's this expectation or target for the team to hit a home playoff berth in that same run. How do you measure the level of success that this team has been on when it comes to kind of this almost historic performance that's occurred this year?
Yeah, I think it's a bit tricky because we know the quality that we have in the squad, and we know how much investment the staff and the club has put into us in terms of our long preseason, in terms of setting this group up in year one to be successful. So we have you know we have no illusion that this was just kind of a year that's setting up for next year. Like, we know that this team was put together to have success. So, you know, missing playoffs would be a huge disappointment. That's not something we're even thinking about, but this team was put together to not just make playoffs, but to do something in it. So, I think that we're still shooting a lot higher than we're sitting right now. And I think we have the potential to do it. We have the quality, we have the ability. So, I think obviously it would be great looking back to say, hey, in year one, we did this, we made playoffs, we gave it a go. But hopefully it doesn't end there. I think the quality that we have in the room and the investment that's been put into us, I don't see there's any reason why we can't hopefully make a run into playoffs.
The league put out a fake bracket where, what would it look like today if playoffs started right now? And based on that, we would be playing Charleston Battery away. So I want to ask you, as just kind of a fun hypothetical, if you had your choice and we could pick the positioning from 4 to 8, which team would you want to play this weekend in knockout competition? Would it be Lou City? Would it be Charleston as it is right now? Would it be Tampa, or would it be Detroit?
Yeah. I mean, obviously being in that 4th position would mean a home game. So that would mean a lot. And that would probably put us up against Detroit. I think a little bit regardless of the team that we're faced up against, having that home game would mean a lot. And to be able to do it in front of the fans would mean a lot. But yeah, if we had an away game, honestly, any of them, bring it on. You got to beat them all by the end anyway. So at that point, you're going away. It's going to be a tough environment, and you're just going there trying to grab a result and make a run.
When you end up playing a playoff team in postseason that maybe you didn't have a good result against, for example, Detroit, we did not get a win against them on either leg. Is it something that you take as a little extra personal when it gets to playoffs? Because now it's do or die. Does it add a little bit of extra spice to it, or does it not matter once it's the playoff season?
No, for sure. Yeah. You don't want your opposing guy to get the best of you, twice, let alone 3 times in a year. I mean, that'd be horrible. So yeah, I think it's that extra motivation. You don't want them to be able to look at you and say, hey, we beat you twice this season or this or that. So, you never want that. So yeah, definitely extra motivation.
So what I'm hearing is a corner scored from a corner from Marc Ybarra against Detroit at home, and that's how we're going to win and advance in the playoffs. You're hearing it here first. That's how it's going to go down.
That'd be amazing. Hopefully we can rewind to this and have it there. Crystal ball moment.
Coach Gano's been on the pod several times, and he's predicted quite a few things. So maybe there's something to be said about it. But in that spirit, to end things off, I want to ask you, when you're not playing with the club, when you're practicing, how do you occupy your free time? I noticed in your bio on LinkedIn that you talk a lot about how you like to study consumerism and you like to analyze the business aspect of everyday life. And I just kind of wanted to ask, is tackling the way people think a hobby of yours? Do you get chances to flex that mindset? Or do you just, when you're not working, is it just like turn off everything and hit that rest and relaxation button?
Yeah. Since, that LinkedIn bio was definitely mostly crafted after my 5th year in school. But I mean, a lot of it is rest. It's you get home from training and you're kind of already recovering for the next day. But I've been trying to pick up a couple new hobbies. I got a guitar at a yard sale since I got here, and I put about a good week and a half of practice into that before giving up. So gonna have to pick that hobby back up. Again, chess is a bit of a hobby of mine, but yeah, hopefully able to learn a couple new skills in Providence soon.
Awesome. Marc, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We look forward to the rest of the season and you as a very big part of it. We wish you nothing but success in the games ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome. And then, guys, you can check us out or check our friends out over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer and Rhode Island FC coverage. You can see them at the www.blazingmusket.com. And then you can follow us on Twitter, Threads, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast. Instagram is at Raising Anchor. And of course, we have a website, www.raisinganchorpodcast.com. Marc, good luck for the rest of the season, and we can't wait to see what happens in playoffs.